Hi guys, this is Zach from Watches on You, and today I'm going to be taking a look at the Omega Speedmaster Professional Skywalker X-33. So this watch is I think one of the coolest watches out there, and that's because not only is this kind of a digital take, or a modern take you could almost say, of the original Speedmaster Moonwatch, but this is the current watch that almost all astronauts use. So this has now become the standard issue for astronauts. I believe that they still get a choice between the Speedmaster Professional, the mechanical model, or this watch, but I know most of them end up using this watch just because for the extra functions that it has, which are many. So this watch was actually designed with the input of the astronauts, which I think is very cool. So they actually kind of tested a lot of prototypes on the astronauts where they sent them up and they gave them this watch and wanted to hear their feedback after they went. So they put in the features that they thought would be great, and then the astronauts gave feedback, and they've come up with really a completely astronaut-focused timepiece. And because the Omega Speedmaster Professional Moonwatch isn't really an astronaut-focused watch. It's just a chronograph that had the right designs and is a very practical chronograph that can be used for the tasks of an astronaut. But this one is designed specifically for the needs of astronauts, which I think is very cool. So let me go over kind of what it has. So as you can see, it is an anadigi display. So it has analog and digital time. You can see that the analog time is going to be in 12-hour, but then it also displays, this is UTC right now, so GMT. This has it in military time, which if you're in space, there really is no day or night, so that's going to be a lot more useful of a timekeeping method to use in 24-hour time instead of 12-hour time. But they did a lot of different things. So you might say, oh, well, there's so many other watches with the GMT. Well, this also has something special. Well, so it can have up to 3 time zones, including UTC, first of all, and then, or actually 4 then if you have the main time. But then it also has MET here, which is mission elapsed time. So this is really what astronauts actually use. When they record, like when they do something, when they're doing an experiment, the time they write down is not a time zone on Earth. It's mission elapsed time, which all that is the second from which the space mission started going on. So it's basically a constant count up timer from the time that the mission began. And that's because, again, when you're in space, there really is no time, like defined time, because there is no day or night. There aren't days when you're orbiting the Earth because you're not on the Earth, so this is what all astronauts really use when they're recording, like experiments and things. They'll be using mission elapsed time. But then it also has something very cool. So if you double tap the pusher, oh, sorry, let me just get to it here. So what you can actually get to is you can get to a PET. So if I go back, so you can see PE1, PE2, and PE3. So this is phase elapsed time. So this is a very cool function that this watch has, and it's one of the things that the astronauts didn't originally necessarily use it, but now they kind of added it in here, and it is a nice function to have. And what the point of this is you can actually set it, and what it will do is it will time from when an event takes place. And you can actually set it so that the event has already happened, or you can set it for an event in the future. So it will actually be able to count either up to an event, so like how much time is left until it happens, and then also once it happens, it will count time past that. So this would be very useful for like liftoff. So you set it before you're lifting off, you're going to set it to liftoff time, and then that way, once the rocket launch, you already have the time marked in the watch, and you'll be able to figure out the exact time that has passed since liftoff. So that's another thing. That's something that phase time could be used for, or for like a rocket phase. So if once the main engines break off from the main rocket, you can set it to that event, and then it will show you how long you have until that happens, and then how long after it's been. And this can also be done again for burns. So when you have a burn coming up, you can set it to the burn, when you're going to need to start the burn. Once it hits 0, you start the burn, and then how it will display seconds after the burn, and then you can be done there. So this is a very useful thing for astronauts, and actually I'm sure there are many other places that this could be used. Like I'm just thinking, just aviation in general, like if you're taking a plane off, you could set it to takeoff time or something like that. I think it's really cool. It would be a very nice feature for certain jobs like that, and I think it's cool. But you do have other basic functions. So you have alarms. So you can actually set up to 3 alarms, you can see there, and you can actually see there's a little membrane in the case back there, and that's made to vibrate. So it has these holes here with a membrane inside, so that way the alarm noise will be louder and you'll be able to hear it easier. So now I'll just switch back. So now we're at the chronograph. So I just held it back. You can to get to phase elapsed time versus your other main functions, you just hold the crown down for about 3 seconds. So start the chronograph. I'll just click the upper pusher. It works just like a mechanical chronograph, the pushers do for the chronograph. But you can obviously hear there's an audible click, and it will actually count up. So here you can say it's stopped, but then if you press the bottom, split. So it has a built-in split time, and then when I press this, you can see 10 seconds there, it's going to switch right to 16 and start counting up because I paused for that one time. So very useful chronograph function, and it has the audible click, so you can tell, like if you accidentally hit the chronograph, you'll know. And that's just something that, again, it would be a bit more practical per se. So there's chronograph. You can also have a timer. You can have UTC, as I showed, time zone 1, time zone 2, and then mission elapsed time. So you also do get a bidirectional rotating bezel, and that would just be great for kind of, I guess you could kind of use the bidirectional bezel as maybe a more informal timer. Like if you're using it for less, you don't need a complete exact accurate time. That's when this would be good to be used for. So you can really track a ton of things on this watch, and that's really why they designed it, because no other watch is that I know of at least is designed specifically for astronauts and covers as many areas as this timepiece does. So I think it's very cool that Omega does this still, and I just think it's the fact that this is the watch that the astronauts now use, and it has so many functions based on that. I think it's really cool. And I think if you have the original Moon watch and you have this, I just think that would be a super cool collection, just because you'll have the original and then you'll have the modern take on what an astronaut's watch should be. So let's get into the just specs of this watch now. So the case is 45 millimeters, which I like to see 40 for an everyday wear watch, but this is an astronaut's watch. It's a professional watch. The size is definitely going to increase visibility, especially with all the anti-digi, display, which is a little bit more cluttered. So I think that the 45 mil display is necessary. I'm fine with that. And when I say what my favorite case size, that's basically for an everyday casual timepiece. But when you need a professional watch like this, the case size is going to need to be larger, and I think 45 millimeters is great for this. I think that I definitely do not say anything bad about Omega for that, as this is such a watch that really does deserve that case size for the purpose that it would be used for, or is made to be used for. Now the case is titanium. It's grade 2 titanium, and grade 2 titanium is going to scratch easier than stainless steel. That's one thing to look out for with this watch. If you're thinking about buying it, is going to scratch a lot easier. But it also is a lot lighter, and lightness is also a constant thing that they worry about with space. So the fact that they did titanium just makes a lot of sense to make this watch just a little bit lighter. Now the clasp, however, this is actually grade 5 titanium. So grade 5 titanium is going to be harder than stainless steel, so it's not going to scratch as much, which I think is great, especially on a clasp, because the clasps are going to end up, they're going to be scratched a lot more than basically anywhere else on the watch from just setting your wrist on like a table or something. That will naturally just get scratched up. So I think it's cool that they put grade 5 there, so it's a little bit tougher. And you can see there is a slight difference in the shade. It is a bit darker than the grade 2, and you can really see that a little bit, I'm sure. But so now let's go on to a wrist shot. So on the wrist, this watch I think actually does wear quite comfortably. It is a 45 millimeter watch. I have about a 7-ish inch wrist. So take that for reference. If you have a small wrist, I think this is going to be a big watch for you. But being 45 mil, I think it's perfect for its intended purpose. You need that legibility of a larger timepiece. And I think it does wear very comfortably, though. There aren't really sharp edges or anything, and it molds to the wrist pretty well. It is a decently thick timepiece, though, as well, and that's also to make make do with the case back where it has the holes in it, so it is going to wear a bit thick. But again, this is a professional watch. Dimensions don't really come into play when you need a watch to have all the things that this watch does. It really is kind of a necessary case size, which I think is just fine. And then the bracelet, the bracelet is really just like the standard Speedmaster bracelet. It's just done in titanium instead, so it's very comfortable. So if you know what that bracelet feels like, just imagine that bracelet with about half the weight. That's kind of what it feels like on the wrist, to give you a sense of that. I think this watch, though, looks really good on NATO straps. So if you put this on a NATO, I know that would increase the thickness a lot, but I think that would look very nice with this timepiece. So thank you guys for watching this video. I'd like to mention that this watch was lent to us by JB Hudson Jewelers for the purpose of this review. I'll be leaving a link in the description to their website if you want to check out this watch or any of the other watches in their collection. Thank you guys for watching this video. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. Thanks.